Close your eyes for just a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning in a world where cars don't just drive, they fly. You step out of bed, rub your eyes, and glance outside the window. The sky isn't empty anymore. Instead of just birds and clouds, you see streams of glowing vehicles gliding effortlessly above the rooftops. Some hum gently as they hover in place, waiting for their turn to ascend higher, while others zoom past in bright lanes of light, leaving trails like shooting stars in daylight. You sip your coffee, and instead of hearing honking horns echoing from the streets below, you hear a soft, futuristic hum, the sound of 1,000 engines sharing the skies. This is no longer science fiction. Flying cars aren't prototypes hidden in labs or concepts locked in magazines. They're just part of everyday life. For some, they're still a wonder. Kids press their faces against glass windows, pointing at the sky, whispering, "Look, Mommy, look at that one." For others, they've already faded into routine, like smartphones once did. Just another tool we can't imagine living without. Picture this: a quiet suburban neighborhood at dawn. Driveways no longer hold rows of parked cars. Instead, rooftops are dotted with landing pads. Some glow faintly with blue rings, guiding each vehicle safely home. Your neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, a retired teacher, steps onto his balcony. He presses a button on his wristband, and with a low hum, his sleek silver flyer detaches itself from the roof dock, hovering patiently like a loyal pet waiting for its owner. Down the street, a teenager with messy hair stumbles out of his house, backpack slung over one shoulder. He climbs into a smaller, family-owned craft, where his mother is already waiting in the pilot's seat. Their morning ritual isn't to back out of a driveway. It's to lift straight into the sky. And just like that, the morning commute begins. Think back to the first time you ever rode in a car as a child. That feeling of speed, of motion, of windows blurring with scenery. Now multiply that wonder tenfold. Your very first flying car ride would feel like stepping into a dream. The sensation of lifting off the ground, watching your neighborhood shrink beneath you, rooftops becoming tiny squares, streets unraveling like ribbons. Until suddenly, you're free. The sky is your highway. The clouds, your scenery. Now, let's compare. Today, when we drive, we're chained to asphalt, stuck in long lines, bumper to bumper, staring at brake lights that never seem to move. In the flying car era, that frustration melts away. The horizon is no longer something you drive towards. It's something you drive into. Cities look different now. Skyscrapers aren't just tall towers. They're ports. Rooftops have been redesigned as glowing pads for arrivals and departures. Some even have full terminals for public air taxis. At rush hour, the skies themselves shimmer with color. Thousands of flyers glide in synchronized lanes, like schools of fish moving in harmony. Some lanes go north, some south, some vertical, climbing to higher levels like invisible highways stacked on top of each other. The chaos of today's rush hour is replaced by something strangely beautiful. Yet, not everything is perfect. With beauty comes new frustrations, new dangers. But for now, in these early moments, people are still mesmerized. Imagine yourself looking up for the first time. and realizing the future isn't coming. The future has already arrived. Think about your life right now. The car parked outside, the roads filled with traffic, the time you lose every single day, minutes turning into hours, hours turning into years. Now imagine shaving all that away. A world where your commute isn't a burden, but an experience. Where instead of feeling stuck, you feel free. The contrast is so sharp, it almost hurts. Like stepping out of a black and white photo into full color. So, this is the first impression of a world filled with flying cars. A mix of awe, routine, beauty, and transformation. But we've only scratched the surface, because if the skies are filled with cars, what does traffic look like? How do thousands, maybe millions, of people share the same airspace without chaos? In Part 2, we'll dive into the world of aerial highways, the lanes of light that keep our new world from crashing into disaster. Now that we've imagined our first impressions of flying cars, let's go one step further. If millions of people take to the skies every day, how do they avoid colliding into each other? What happens when rush hour takes place above our heads? Look up at the sky. Not the calm, endless blue you know today. No. This sky is alive, structured, pulsing with energy. Flying cars don't just wander wherever they want. The airspace is divided into lanes, invisible to the eye, but displayed on every windshield through augmented reality. Imagine glowing corridors of light stretching across the horizon, stacked on top of each other like multi-level highways. One layer for eastbound traffic, one for westbound, another for slower flyers, another for high-speed lanes. It's like looking at a giant three-dimensional grid suspended in the sky. And unlike today's highways, these aren't paved with asphalt. They're paved with algorithms. Every car communicates wirelessly with every other car, constantly adjusting, constantly aware. No tailgating, no blind spots, no need for horns. Because each vehicle knows exactly where the others are, down to the centimeter. It's not humans driving anymore. It's artificial intelligence guiding thousands of crafts in perfect harmony. And that is the only reason this works. Let's experience a typical rush hour. It's 8 a.m. The city skyline shimmers with movement. From every rooftop, cars are lifting off like bees leaving a hive. Thousands, tens of thousands, all at once. But instead of chaos, there's order. Traffic lanes flicker alive, visible on AR dashboards. Cars merge smoothly into streams. They rise, tilt, and accelerate in unison. From the ground, it looks like rivers of light flowing in the sky. Red streams going one way, blue streams flowing the other. Yellow streams climbing vertically like glowing elevators into the upper layers of airspace. It's breathtaking. It's overwhelming. And it's organized. Compare that to today's highways. Horns blaring, brake lights glowing, people cutting each other off, anger boiling inside metal boxes. Now, flying cars erase some of that chaos, but not all of it, because even with AI, there are still problems. Imagine this. A sudden thunderstorm rolls in, thick clouds, winds pushing hard. The system redirects traffic, closing several aerial lanes. Thousands of cars are forced to reroute at once. Suddenly, the sky is crowded. Engines hum louder as flyers hover in place, waiting for clearance. Red warning lights flicker across dashboards. For the first time, the sky feels like a parking lot. And so, a new phenomenon is born. Not the traffic jam, but the sky jam. It's quieter, cleaner, but just as frustrating. People hover for minutes, sometimes hours, burning energy, staring out at endless rows of suspended vehicles glowing in the night. To keep order, new rules had to be written. Governments introduced sky patrols, flying police units that monitor lanes, scanning for reckless pilots, unauthorized takeoffs, or overloaded crafts. Instead of speed limits on signs, limits are enforced automatically. Your flyer simply won't accelerate past the legal maximum in a crowded zone. And if you try, Sky Patrol is on you in minutes. Some hate the control. Others welcome the safety. But one thing is clear. Freedom in the sky comes with boundaries. Night falls and the traffic transforms. The glowing lanes become neon rivers weaving across the stars. Red, blue, green, purple. Entire constellations of human travel. Couples sit on balconies, wine glasses in hand, watching the sky like fireworks. Children trace the glowing paths with their fingers, imagining the lives of those inside. It's no longer just traffic. It's a spectacle. The poetry of human movement painted across the night. So, this is traffic in the sky, a dance of precision guided by invisible algorithms. Beautiful, breathtaking, but far from perfect. It's not just about the skies being filled with vehicles. It's about how we, as people, adapt to sharing this new world. But here's the real question. What does daily life look like now? What about the ordinary routines? School runs, work commutes, grocery shopping. In Part 3, we'll explore exactly that. A day in the life of ordinary people in the age of flying cars. Flying cars aren't just for show. They're not just flashy toys for the rich. They've become the backbone of daily life. The school run, the morning commute, the quick trip to the market. These once mundane routines have been transformed into experiences that feel, at least for now, a little bit extraordinary. Picture a suburban street at dawn. Instead of the sound of garage doors creaking open and engines sputtering awake, rooftops hum with life. A mother stands at her kitchen counter, sipping coffee. She taps her phone, and her family's flyer detaches from its dock with a low, gentle buzz. By the time she's zipped up her child's backpack, the car is hovering patiently outside the window. Doors open, cabin lights glowing softly like a morning invitation. No scraping frost off a windshield. No shuffling in the cold to the driveway. Just step inside. From the ground, the street looks like a synchronized performance. One by one, flyers rise into the sky, merging into traffic streams. Some head toward business districts, others toward schools. To the neighbors, it feels like watching fireflies drift upward at dawn. Meet Clara, a high school teacher. Before flying cars, her commute was 90 minutes of crawling traffic. Every day she'd sit behind a sea of red brake lights, sipping lukewarm coffee, arriving at school already drained. Now, Clara steps into her flyer, sets the autopilot, and in 8 minutes, she's above the city skyline. She spends her mornings grading papers in the air, sipping coffee that actually stays hot, arriving at work calm, prepared, and, most importantly, on time. She once told a colleague, "The biggest change isn't the time I save. It's the energy I don't waste." Students too live in this new rhythm. Instead of waiting in long lines for school buses, children gather at neighborhood skyports, glowing platforms where multiple families' flyers dock together. Some schools even operate sky buses, massive flying vehicles carrying dozens of students, stacked seating like double-deckers, screens projecting safety briefings, while parents wave from the ground. For the kids, it's not just transport, it's part adventure. They race to get window seats, faces pressed against the glass as they rise above the clouds. One girl whispers to her friend, "It feels like we're astronauts going to school on Mars." Not every flight is glamorous. Some are just errands. Picture an older man heading out for groceries. Instead of loading a trunk on the street, he guides his flyer to a floating market hub, a mid-air shopping center suspended above the city. Small flyers dock in assigned ports. People step out and shop as though at a mall, but hundreds of feet above ground. Others prefer ground-level shops. Their flyers land beside redesigned parking lots, vertical towers with landing pads stacked like shelves. Imagine parking garages reaching not sideways, but upward. In both cases, convenience is king. No circling blocks for parking. No long queues at traffic lights. A quick hover, a smooth dock, and you're done. Now think about deliveries. Packages no longer crawl through traffic in vans. They fly. Take Diego, a delivery driver. His flyer has multiple compartments, each coded to customers' rooftops. Instead of stopping at front doors, he hovers above each house, lowering a small drone that drops the package gently on a landing pad. In one morning, Diego covers an entire district, something that used to take a whole day on the ground. Of course, customers still complain. Why was my package late? But when late means 10 minutes instead of 2 days, well, that's a different world. For office workers, the change is both subtle and profound. Instead of crawling through traffic for an hour, James now spends 12 minutes in his flyer. He reads the news in peace, takes video calls in transit, even listens to meditation guides as the skyline rushes past. Arriving at work isn't about relief anymore. It's about transition. A moment of calm between home and office. He once joked to his boss, "The best part of my job is the commute." But not everyone enjoys the same freedom. Flying cars aren't cheap. For the wealthy, commutes are smooth, comfortable, and quick. For the middle class, costs mean compromises, shared rides, budget flyers, limited air lanes. And for those who can't afford one at all, ground traffic still exists. Smaller, thinner roads, filled with old cars, bikes, and buses. To some, the world of the sky feels like another planet they can see, but never touch. One journalist wrote, "The gap between rich and poor is no longer measured in blocks. It's measured in altitude." So this is daily life in the age of flying cars. Teachers, students, workers, delivery drivers. each of them living routines that feel both familiar and transformed. The commute is no longer something to dread. It's an experience, a privilege, sometimes even a joy. But life isn't only about work and errands. It's also about love, friendship, and the moments that make life worth living. So in part 4, we'll step into the personal side of the story. Imagine taking your girlfriend on a date, not by car, not by train, but by soaring together through the stars. The hum of engines is no longer just a symbol of work or traffic. It's become part of our personal lives too. Flying cars are not just tools for commuting. They've woven themselves into the way we connect with one another. Imagine a young man, Daniel, standing outside his apartment building. Instead of waiting with flowers at his door for his girlfriend, he checks his wrist interface, and moments later, a sleek, silver flying car glides down gently, its lights shimmering against the night sky. He opens the gull-wing doors with a smile, and his girlfriend, Sophia, steps in. "Ready for tonight?" he asks. "Of course," she replies, her eyes already scanning the glittering horizon. Instead of driving across town stuck in lines of red brake lights, they rise above the city. The streets below blur into threads of light. The rivers glisten like silver ribbons, and skyscrapers pierce the night sky like illuminated mountains. Dates are no longer confined to restaurants across town. They can happen anywhere. Dinner might be at a floating restaurant platform high above the ocean, accessible only by air. Or maybe it's a stargazing trip above the clouds, where the only sounds are the low hum of the car and the heartbeat of the moment. Parents, too, adapt. Picture a family outing. Mom, dad, and 2 kids buckle in for a weekend escape. No more hours lost in road trips clogged by traffic jams. Instead, the family hovers gently out of the city, soaring toward countryside vistas in a fraction of the time. Children press their faces against the transparent canopy, squealing with excitement as they pass through cotton-like clouds. Family bonding becomes an adventure in itself, with skies becoming new playgrounds. Friendships evolve in the same way. Teenagers no longer borrow dad's car for a drive. They might borrow his hover coupe to take their friends for an aerial spin. High school culture shifts. Hanging out isn't just at the mall or park, but hovering near the coastline, or parking mid-air at designated sky hubs, where groups of vehicles cluster like futuristic picnic spots. But with all these thrills, there's still a thread of relatability. Remember how today, a simple drive with someone you care about can feel magical? A flying car multiplies that magic, yet the emotions remain the same. Nervous laughter on a first date. A parent reassuring a child who's a little scared of heights. Friends telling stories late into the night while floating above their city. The flying car doesn't erase humanity. It magnifies the way we already connect. At first glance, flying cars feel like freedom. The open sky, endless horizons, the dream of travel without limits. But freedom comes with complexity, and soon the cracks begin to show. The skies above cities, once wide open, start to resemble invisible highways. Digital lanes, enforced by AI navigation systems, keep order among thousands of vehicles. Imagine glowing corridors in the air, holographic markers projected by satellites that guide streams of cars like schools of fish. stray outside of your lane, and an alarm rings in your cockpit. Warning: course deviation detected. Still, accidents happen. Picture a distracted pilot checking their messages as their hover sedan climbs too fast, clipping another vehicle's rotor. A near miss. The cars stabilize automatically, but both drivers are shaken. Much like today's fender benders, arguments spill over in mid-air chat channels. Watch your altitude, idiot. Governments step in with strict regulations. To own a flying car, you don't just need a license. You need advanced pilot training, constant monitoring, and insurance policies as heavy as the machines themselves. Air police patrol in sleek enforcement crafts, pulling aside reckless drivers. Infractions aren't just tickets anymore. They're potential disasters falling from the sky. Noise becomes a growing issue. What once felt like a futuristic hum now grates on citizens who live beneath sky lanes. Protests emerge. We wanted peace, not constant buzzing above our homes. Cities respond by creating quiet zones, areas where flying cars must ascend to higher altitudes to reduce noise pollution. Then comes the problem of weather. Rain, fog, strong winds, conditions that grounded flights for decades now affect daily commutes. Imagine rushing to work only to hear, "Notice, severe turbulence." Civilian flying suspended until further notice. Thousands of vehicles must land immediately, creating chaos as rooftop pads overflow. And safety? It's a fragile balance. Engineers design auto-landing systems, parachute pods, even airbags that deploy beneath vehicles. But every incident makes headlines. Flying car crash in downtown sector. 3 injured. Public trust wavers each time, reminding everyone that this dream carries risks. Daily life adjusts. Families double-check weather reports before leaving home. Lovers hesitate before planning cloud-top dinners if storms threaten. Parents worry. Is my teenager ready to fly safely? The skies may promise freedom, but the rules and dangers make it clear. This freedom is fragile, tightly regulated, and costly. Above all, the comparison with today's world is sharp. On the ground, traffic jams are frustrating. In the sky, mistakes are catastrophic. What was once a honk of a horn could now be the difference between life and death. Flying cars don't just reshape how we live, they force us to rethink responsibility, discipline, and the price of progress. Years pass. Flying cars are no longer novelties. They are the backbone of daily life. And just like smartphones or the internet in our world, they don't simply change how we move. They change who we are. Cities begin to stretch upward instead of outward. Rooftop pads become just as important as driveways once were. Entire neighborhoods reorganize around air lanes and vertical hubs, towering skyports where families shop, dine, and depart directly into the skies. Suburbs shrink as people no longer need to live close to train lines or highways. Commuting from remote mountain towns or floating island platforms becomes effortless. Romance, too, evolves. Proposals happen above the clouds. Friends host sky picnics, where vehicles link in formation. And birthdays might include a flight to watch the sunrise from the stratosphere. Flying cars create traditions unthinkable in the old world, giving culture a new canvas in the skies. Jobs evolve. Mechanics become aerospace technicians. Insurance agents specialize in air risk management. And architects Design homes with landing pads instead of garages. Delivery drones expand into full-sized cargo transports, revolutionizing trade. Businesses relocate to floating skyscrapers, accessible only by air. A new economy thrives above the ground, while industries tied to highways and gas stations fade away. But inequality grows sharper. Flying cars, despite advances, remain costly to maintain. The wealthy soar in silence through premium high-altitude lanes, while the working class crowd lower air corridors, battling turbulence and congestion. Social divisions are no longer just about neighborhoods, they're about altitude. The sky fills with energy demands. At first, combustion engines threaten pollution, but soon society shifts to sustainable tech. Electric rotors, hydrogen cells, solar-infused hulls that recharge during flight. Skies once noisy begin to quiet as technology matures, but the battle against climate change continues. Still, the image of cities glowing at night with fleets of whisper-quiet vehicles moving like constellations becomes the symbol of a cleaner, smarter future. Flying cars ignite imagination beyond transportation. They inspire children to dream of the skies, engineers to design beyond the limits of roads, and storytellers to reimagine human freedom. But the most profound shift isn't in the machines, it's in perspective. For the first time in history, ordinary people live not just on the surface of the earth, but above it. Daily routines involve altitude, clouds, horizons. Humanity's relationship with the planet changes. Looking down on cities every morning makes people feel small, connected, and humbled. The sky no longer belongs only to birds and pilots. It belongs to everyone. And yet, after all the transformation, one truth remains. Just as with cars today, flying cars don't solve everything. They bring wonder, but also noise. They bring freedom, but also regulation. They bring equality to some, but widen divides for others. Progress is never simple. It is a mirror, showing us not just what we create, but who we are becoming. So perhaps the most powerful lesson of flying cars is not how they carry us from place to place, but how they carry us into a future that demands responsibility, vision, and care. As the story closes, imagine this. You climb into your vehicle one last time. The canopy seals shut. Engines hum. The city sparkles below. Clouds drift past your windows, and the stars glimmer above. This is not just transportation. This is humanity, learning to live between earth and sky.